My wife Marcy was in London again and shopping. Every year she spends more and more time away from home. We are no longer married, but I can't afford to give her a divorce, and she has no desire to file for one. Over the past 5 years, my software company has taken off. For 10 years, I struggled to just keep my head above water, and then hardware technology caught up with my software package, and things took off. 3 major companies expressed interest, and I was just waiting for the right one to take a hold. The actual value was now well over 10 million, mostly in the stock I had. About 8 years ago, Marcy worked at a law firm in Reading. The salary at the time was a big help. Her workday was long, and she ended up doing some overnight trips for the firm, even though I thought she was just a paralegal. I was busy with new software, so I didn't pay much attention to her absences. Everything had been fine between us up until then. Our sex life was great, and we seemed to spend a lot of time doing things together and enjoying each other's company, even despite my promiscuous habits at work. After she worked at a law firm for about a year, sex pretty much died down, and our life together became barely platonic. I was unhappy with the situation, but I was sure it was just a phase she was going through. We had 2 sons who were both in high school. They were largely taking care of themselves on their own. Bradley was preparing to attend the University of Pennsylvania, and Scott was looking forward to serving in the Marine Corps. Marcy's supervisor at Burke's Legal was Robert Logan. I had met him and his wife several times at company events, and he seemed like a normal guy. One day, Marcy came home very upset and told me that Robert was dead, shot by his wife. She didn't go into any other details, but she quit her job shortly thereafter and never worked again. Our marriage didn't improve. She became moody and prone to arguments. I wish I could say she had some positive traits, but I can't. I would try to avoid her as much as possible, but it was difficult. To top it off, she was pregnant. I had hoped that a new baby would improve our family situation, but it didn't. Marcy named our newborn daughter Glenda. She adored the girl and worried about her constantly, but our relationship continued to deteriorate. As Glenda got older, Marcy started spending more time away from home. The company was making money, so we moved to a new house with servants. Marcy hired a nanny for Glenda and took full advantage of it. I never asked where she went or why. All I knew was that there were a lot of expenses. Fortunately, I was making money faster than she had time to spend it, but I was just as frustrated. I tried to talk to her and find out what had happened between us, but she refused. Of course, the separate bedrooms didn't help. I had no idea what I had done wrong, so I didn't know how to fix it. In the end, I just gave up. The divorce would cost me a couple $1,000,000 and probably ruin the new company. I was angry at myself for letting it get this far. I had my own legal staff, but I still didn't see a good way out. Glenda was growing up to be a beautiful young lady. I spent as much time with her as I could. Marcy usually kept us apart, but because she was gone so often, Glenda and I became good friends without her knowing. It was our secret, and Glenda loved it. She was now in 3rd grade and doing well academically. I went to parent-teacher meetings and teacher conferences. Marcy was usually busy with other important things. Bradley and Scott were on their own and were doing fine. My marriage was a failure, but my kids made up for it. And then one day I got lucky. Janet Logan was sitting in my office waiting for me. I was surprised because I thought she was in jail for killing her husband. She had aged a lot. Her hair was shoulder-length and was a sleek mixture of gray, silver, and a little black. She wore very little makeup, and her skin seemed to have a delicate smoothness to it, but it was not soft. Her eyebrows were natural and matched her face perfectly. She seemed tough and feminine at the same time. "Janet, this is a surprise, to say the least. You look good." "Thank you, Grady. I wasn't sure you'd remember me. It's been 8 years, and I was sure no one would remember me." "Do you want some coffee?" "Black would be great." "Janet, I'm in a very awkward position here. I'm aware of your situation, and I don't want to say anything that might upset you. If I say or do anything inappropriate, please feel free to correct me." "I've spent the last 8 years in prison, Grady. I'm pretty relaxed about the whole thing. Don't worry about my feelings. By the way, how's Mrs. Stevens doing?" "That's not what I want to talk about. Let's just say things could be better." "I'm sorry, but that's the reason I came to you. I need to talk to you about Marcy. I'm not vindictive, but there are some things that I feel need to be resolved. I set my cup of coffee in front of her, but sat in the chair next to my desk instead of behind it. I wanted to hear what she had to say, and I wanted her to feel comfortable while she did it. I pressed the intercom button and instructed my secretary not to interrupt us. "Grady, have you been following the process at all?" "No." Marcy had mentioned what had happened, but I didn't have much interest in it myself. I was busy starting a business, and she wasn't very talkative at the time. I think she was upset about his death. "I think more than you could imagine. It sounds like you have no idea what was going on, so a lot of this will come as a shock to you. You said you didn't mean to upset me. Well, I feel the same way. I'm going to explain things to you that are unpleasant to hear. If it gets too hard, just tell me and I'll stop. Maybe we should have had some scotch instead of coffee." We both laughed a little. The day I shot Robert, he was planning to leave me and run off with Marcy. Robert stayed home just long enough to hand me the divorce papers. Your wife was waiting in the car. They were going to visit you after they were done with me. I had known about their affair for some time and had the papers and some pictures. The fact that he was asking for a divorce didn't bother me because I was planning the same thing. Janet, I had no idea. I was living in my own little world at the time. I think in some ways it was my fault that all of this happened. I'm sorry that my poor performance as a husband contributed to your marital problems. There was more to it than that, Grady. Robert always wanted a family, but we could never have children. He was always complaining about my shortcomings as a wife and blaming me for everything. When he handed me the divorce papers, he told me that Marcy was pregnant with his child and that she was going to provide him with the family he had always dreamed of. I turned around and started to walk away from him, but he continued to insult me and call me all sorts of derogatory names. It wasn't enough that he was leaving and divorcing me. He insisted on making me feel like I wasn't that person. He never seemed to stop berating me. And finally I snapped, reached into the cupboard drawer and pulled out a revolver. I don't remember shooting him. "Are you saying that my daughter, Glenda, belongs to Robert?" "Glenda isn't Robert's daughter, but I would assume Marcy thinks she is." "Can you explain that?" "I've been tested several times. The doctors never found anything wrong with me. I finally tested Robert's sample and it was completely sterile. I never told him. By the way, Glenda is Robert's mother's name. I assume it was the name they agreed on when Marcy found out she was pregnant." "Marcy chose that name, but I had no idea where she got it from. I think you're right, and she thinks Glenda is Robert's child. Knowing that explains a lot. Would you like some more coffee?" "No, but there's something else I need to talk to you about. Are you sure you have time?" "I'm fine. Don't worry about a thing. That's the nice thing about being a warden. When I went to prison, everything in the house was put into storage. Robert's briefcase was among them. I was going through it last week and found this." Janet handed me the original divorce papers that Marcy was going to give me the day Robert was shot. The papers were signed, dated, and notarized. Robert and Marcy worked at a law firm, so the terms of the divorce were spelled out very precisely. "Is that still in effect?" Janet laughed. "I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. Familiarize yourself with paragraph 7. It grants me full custody of all the children. Wow, that would really piss her off if she knew I could get Glenda. Sure, the boys are long gone, but if I get custody of her little angel, she'll go nuts. Can I take this so my lawyers can review it?" "It's yours, Grady. It has no value to me. I wish you the best. Here's a few more things that may or may not interest you." Janet handed me 2 heavy paper envelopes. "The pictures my detective took are in the small envelope. They are of a very sexual nature. I don't need them, but they might be useful to you. In the large envelope are the results of the investigation that my private detective gave me and some other interesting documents. You can look through them and decide what's important to you." "Thank you. I really don't want to look at them, but I'll give them to my lawyer along with the papers." We both sat and looked at each other for a few moments. She was a very impressive woman, and I was glad she had come to see me. "I better go and let you get back to work. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I feel better when I'm done with it. By the way, you don't have any openings for ex-cons, do you?" Seymour Schlump, my personal and favorite lawyer, was thrilled to see 8-year-old divorce papers that had no expiration date. He was like a kid in a candy store and couldn't wait to get to work. Marcy didn't ask for any interest, just hard numbers. She wanted $14,000 from her current and savings accounts. 8 years ago, that had been about half of the total, but today it was almost nothing. All the other requirements were similar. There was only one snag. She wanted the 1995 Volvo station wagon she had at the time. I sold it about 5 years ago. I had to find that car. Janet Logan started working in the company's software testing department. It was an entry-level job, but I felt she would be comfortable with it. It also gave me the opportunity to see her on a regular basis. I liked Janet and hoped to get to know her better. Glenda and I kept our DNA tests a secret from Marcy. It was going to be a few weeks before the results came back, but Seymour needed time to make sure there were no loopholes in the divorce papers. I was confident that the results would show that Glenda was mine. With a little help from friends, I was able to find a Volvo at the state college. A college fraternity guy was happy to provide it to me for twice what he paid for it. A week later, I had a car with Marcy's name on the paperwork. Seymour explained to me that as long as nothing was changed in the original divorce petition, it could go through as written. We couldn't find anything serious enough to make us want to change it. Marcy's signature was notarized and still legal even after 8 years. I signed for myself and the Seymour notary stamped it. Now all we had to do was wait. Time was dragging very slowly. My relationship with my wife was not improving. My relationship with my daughter grew stronger every day. My relationship with Janet Logan grew stronger every day. After about a month, I convinced Janet to have lunch with me after hours. It was pleasant, unconditional, and I assured her that I would not do anything to show the other employees that I was interested in her. She responded that her relationship with me was more important than her job. I had a hunch that things would work out, but I wasn't going to rush into anything. Over the next few weeks, I tried several times to talk to Marcy about our marriage. She refused to enter into any discussion or even answer questions. What I didn't tell her was that her petition for divorce from me was pending, and in a short time she would be notified that it was final. It was the middle of the week and the middle of the day when my loving wife Marcy burst into the office. "What the hell is this?" she asked, throwing some official papers on my desk. "I'm not sure, but I think the divorce petition you filed 8 years ago has just been finalized." "You son of a bitch, you can't do that. Things have changed since then, and if you think I'm gonna let you get away with this shit, you're crazy." "What's changed, honey? Just because your lover died doesn't mean we couldn't proceed with the divorce. I agreed to all your terms, so you have no grounds to object. I suggest you hire a lawyer if you want to contest the divorce. But in the meantime, I would like you to remove all of your belongings that you gave me from my home. I will gladly get out of your house and throw out that piece of crap divorce notice. You're gonna pay, and you're gonna pay big time. Glenda and I will be gone this afternoon, and I'll send someone for my stuff tomorrow. I'm sorry, dear, but if you read paragraph 7, you'll notice that you've given full custody of Glenda to me. Until you deal with that, she's mine. If you try to take Glenda without my permission, I will have you arrested, I promise." By now, Marcy was seething with anger. All her words were not spoken but shouted. The muscles in her neck were tense, and the veins in her forehead were swollen. Her lips trembled every time she spoke. For the next minute, I didn't hear what she was saying. I just stood there, stunned by her frenzy. Finally, she grabbed the papers and ran out the door. The peace and quiet was wonderful. I was sitting completely relaxed and relieved when my secretary brought me a cup of coffee. She didn't say anything but just smiled. I spent the rest of the day canceling cell phones, credit cards, bank accounts, and insurance policies. I called Janet, and she agreed to have dinner with me and Glenda that night. I needed a friendly shoulder to lean on. Glenda and Janet spent most of the evening talking to each other. Things didn't go as I had planned. Seymour called me a few days later. Marcy had hired legal counsel, and an appointment had been set up to settle the divorce. A family court judge was going to attend and act as arbitrator. Seymour pointed out that Marcy's attorney didn't seem to be particularly confident about reversing the divorce decree, but seemed more interested in getting me to give up custody of Glenda as an addendum. I agreed to compromise but not give in. The meeting started slowly and consisted mostly of going over each of the demands that Marcy had made in the divorce petition. Seymour handed out checks for the agreed-upon amounts, and we sat quietly and endured formal protests about the unfairness of the settlement. Seymour did not respond in any way. Marcy seemed shocked when I handed the car keys and Volvo paperwork across the table. Finally, the issue of custody was brought up. Marcy asked the judge if she could make a statement, which was approved. For the last 8 years, I forced myself to live in a loveless marriage for the sake of my daughter. I loved Robert Logan with all my heart and was proud to give him the child his wife could not have. Robert Logan is the father of my daughter, not Grady Stevens. Mr. Stevens has no rights to Glenda, and I will not tolerate the daughter of the man I loved being raised by a stranger. On this basis, I am seeking sole custody of Glenda Stevens. The judge, who had been silent throughout the proceedings, spoke. Mrs. Stevens, are you saying that Glenda Stevens is the result of the adultery you had with Robert Logan when you were married to Grady Stevens? Yes, Your Honor. The way you phrased it sounds a little derogatory, but Robert Logan and I were lovers and soulmates. We never felt we were doing anything as dirty as adultery. We were planning or starting our own lives together when his tragedy occurred. Glenda is proof of our love, and I don't want Mr. Stevens to be involved with her in any way. Your candor on this issue would, in most cases, reduce the likelihood of you getting custody because of your infidelity. However, if what you say is true, we may have to reconsider. The judge looked at Seymour. Do you have anything to say? Seymour and I sat there looking at each other. Are you sure you want to do this, Grady? Yeah, let's do it. My friendly lawyer slid a piece of paper across the table to Marcy's attorney. This is a report made approximately 6 weeks prior to the date of Glenda Stevens' conception. As you can see, the report indicates that Robert Logan had a 0 sperm count. Mr. Logan was completely sterile, and there was no way he could have fathered a child. This is why Janet Logan, who is capable of conceiving, was never able to get pregnant. Marcy turned pale and her eyes went wide. She began to worry again, just as she had in my office. It's a lie. This report is not authentic. It is something you are only making up to steal Robert's baby from me. Her lawyer whispered something in her ear, trying to calm her down. Finally, she seemed to relax a little. Seymour slid 3 more pieces of paper across the table. The first form was Glenda Stevens' DNA analysis. The second form is a DNA analysis of Grady Stevens. The third report is a comparison of the two, which shows that Grady Stevens is without a doubt the father of Glenda Stevens. Any questions? By this time, Marcy was in tears. She was no longer angry. Now she was just crushed. She sobbed uncontrollably as her attorney asked for a short recess. After the break, my ex-wife's attorney acknowledged custody but asked for some sort of visitation agreement. I agreed to allow Marcy to see Glenda every weekend and 2 holidays a year, at her discretion. Marcy decided that she would like to see Glenda on Christmas and her birthday. For the rest of the meeting, Marcy sat quietly. I went back to work without saying anything to her and left Seymour to do the paperwork. I couldn't believe I'd gotten off so cheap. If Marcy had been a better wife for even a few years, I would have been willing to share the wealth. I had never denied her anything, emotionally or financially. I was willing and able to do anything for her, but somehow I failed to live up to her expectations as a husband. I never could figure out what Robert Logan had that I didn't, or what he did for her that I couldn't. The photos Janet left behind didn't show that he was anything special in a physical sense. I gave copies of the photos and the results of the investigation to Marcy. Inside the investigation were 2 reports of Robert meeting other women at the motel at the same time he was seeing Marcy. I hoped she enjoyed reading these. All my attempts to get an explanation from Marcy were rebuffed. The divorce left me with a sense of failure. I found little solace in Glenda and Janet. Marcy moved in with Robert's mother, Glenda. Apparently they had become friends over the past few years. Unfortunately, nothing good came of it for Marcy. To support herself, my ex-wife took her time selling off the jewelry and designer clothes she had accumulated at my expense. It took her a while to realize that her lover's mother was doing the same. After 6 months, Marcy moved out and went to live with her sister in Norristown. At first, Marcy took Glenda every weekend. Then she started calling and making excuses that she couldn't come for one reason or another. The calls became more and more frequent, and the excuses became more and more ridiculous. Eventually, she just stopped coming altogether. Glenda didn't mind when her mother canceled because Janet and I were trying to fill her attention. We are spending more time together and starting to feel like family. Janet moved into our house, and we got married just before Christmas. Marcy went on a solo cruise in the Caribbean over the vacations and couldn't take Glenda as planned. That made everyone happy. 2 weeks later, I filed a motion to cancel the supplemental custody agreement, and it was approved. My company was finally bought, and we were now flush with cash. Janet is very happy because she is pregnant for the first time in her life. We will be on Social Security until the baby graduates from high school, but it will be worth it. Finally, life is good.